Hello and welcome to another Rightly Witterings with me, Michael Jex, the tea drinking author, who's let the tea get cold. Never mind, it'll do for now. Right, I was reminded yesterday, which was Monday the 15th, that I put a video up some time ago and I was a little bit sniffy, I think is the term to use, about the Platinum Preppy. Now, it's difficult, I find, because you get some pens that are just glorious, such as a magnificent solid silver Conway Stewart. This is still probably my favourite Conway Stewart and possibly favourite pen. It's ludicrous, it's too heavy, I can't take it out with me, but it's a pen that I am hugely fond of. I bought this to remind myself of some sports and hobbies I could no longer do, so when I sold my equipment, I spent the money on this as a similar piece of mechanical or metal masterpiece. And it's beautiful, I love it. And then again, you've got other pens which are, moderately cost effective. Let me just check on some prices here. I think that would be worthwhile. So I'm just going to go into Safari and I'm going to look up what the price is of this TWSBI. So let's have a look. What's going on here? I brought up the wrong page. Hold on 1 second. I'll be back in a moment. So first of all, let's just look at this, a TWSBI, because it's worthwhile looking at the different types of pen and how much they cost and so on. So what is a TWSBI today? It is, let's see, it's a TWSBI Go, which I like. I like it lots because they're very reasonable prices. So looking at this, £21 now. What do I like about them? They're light, easily pocketable. This has a 1.1mm stub nib, which means it writes gloriously. It's currently filled with Dusk from Dominant Industries, which I adore. It's very, very nice. I like the fact the cap just pushes on and clicks. I really, really like the fact that in order to refill it, all you do is you drop the nib into an ink bottle, press the plunger, release the plunger, and it sucks ink up. It's that easy and quick. And it takes a surprising amount of ink. So £21, that is a brilliant all-round package. I also rather like the fact that there's no clip. Yes, I like clips sometimes. I have lots of pens and pencils clipped to my shirt even now, but sometimes it's really nice just to be able to shove a thing in your pocket and not have to worry about a clip catching on things or anything. I just like the TWSBIs. And then there's lots of other pens. You can go for very expensive pens. You can go for slightly more expensive TWSBIs, come to that. Let's just see now. There's the Diamond 580, the VAC 700. There's the Eco. The Eco starts at about, let's see, £37, but if you go for the special versions, they can go up to £53. Well, that's your choice really, isn't it? And then you've got the Diamond 580s, which is one of their original pens, which are really rather elegant. I do like the fact that all of the TWSBI pens tend to be see-through, so you can see the ink sloshing around inside, which is nice. And they're £69, £72, that sort of order. So they sort of get rather more expensive as soon as you go up the list from the go. But there is another range of pens which, yeah, they're not in the same sort of league, but by heavens, they're really effective. And I say that as an explanation as to why I still have 3 of them that are being used. Yes, I've actually got a 4th, and I've got another metal version, the Plaisir, somewhere, and I was going to dig that out to show to you tonight, but actually I couldn't find them, so I haven't. So let's just have a look at what we've got here. And I'm just going to return to Platinum and look up this pen, because what this is, it's called the Preppy. I have 3 Preppies here. I have one that is 0.2 millimeters on the nib, one that is 0.3 millimeters on the nib, and another one which is 0.2, which is a lot easier to see, so I'm going to stick to talk about this one. These two, some time ago, I decided to spend... let's just talk about the pens first. I'm going to take this one, the 0.2 nib, because it's the easiest one to get on with. So have a look at it. It is not an expensive looking pen. It has a clip which is not particularly strong or springy, and in fact I'm not sure it would hold the pen in your pocket. It has a simple pull on push off cap which will post perfectly happily, and it's not going to overbalance because the whole thing is so light there's no way it's going to give you any grief. 0.2 millimeter nib. I have to say, I've always thought that you're better off with a slightly larger nib like a 0.3 mil, but in fact the 0.3 has never written very well. The 0.2 has always been a great deal better for me. All of these have feeds you can see through, so it looks a bit messy as ink starts to flow into the feed, but never mind that. And in here, they are designed to take special platinum ink cartridges. This, however, has a little insert, which means that it will take instead standard universal ink cartridges, because I have ink cartridges coming out of my ears of various different types. Platinum, I've got universal standard types for diamine, I've got oodles of them, and I thought it would make sense to be able to use different inks. But then a friend, thank you Chris, sent me another one which is sort of this and sort of this, because you can tell that the red colour sort of ties up, but unfortunately it had an accident and the red cover no longer works properly. So I now stick to a clear plastic back on this pen, which has the red insert to tie up with the cap and what was the barrel. This, however, has not got a converter, so it's got the longer standard platinum cartridge. And you see what I meant when I said that it looks a bit messy when it comes into the feed. Here you go. Because this pen has some stunning black ink. It is called carbon black. Now, I've never bought carbon black and put it in a decent pen because, well, it's chock full of lumps of carbon. And I'm always petrified that if I put that in a Visconti or something, it might block the pen. Far less concern when you're using one of these. Why should that be? Well, because looking at the website, these cost £4.80 each. They're ridiculously cheap. Now, let's just have a quick look at it. What do I like about it? I love the fact it's cheap. I really like the fact it is very light. And I really like the fact that it takes carbon black ink. Why is that? Because I do a lot of sketching and painting. And carbon black ink is one of those rare inks that is absolutely 100% watertight. You can do a sketch with this, leave it a couple of minutes, and then put watercolour over the top, and the lines remain beautifully unaffected. And I've just tested it on a bit of paper, but look at this. There you go. Last time I used this pen was over a week ago, and yet even with carbon black ink it stays fresh and it still writes. And the reason for that is probably up here. You might just see a spring in there, and that spring is behind this little inner rubberized cap, and when you put the pen into it, as you can see, it forms a perfect seal. The spring keeps that cap over the nib and stops it from stops the ink from evaporating. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. So all these are really good things. It's light, great to sketch with. I'm not worried about putting carbon black ink inside it because frankly, who cares? So what are the problems with it? Well, are there any problems with it? Just noticed a black smudge there. I don't know if that's ink on the inside or if that's just, I don't think it can be ink on the inside because it would show further up the barrel if it was. So there's one problem with it, and that is that it is very, very cheap acrylic, and so if you're a little bit careless and drop it, you may crack the acrylic barrel, as I have here, which you probably can't see because the focus on this iPad is not too hot, but you can probably hear that. It is cracked, and that means that as you tighten it up, it just comes loose, which was fine generally, but not when I was holding it in my shirt pocket. It suddenly started to leak. Now I'm carrying all of my artist materials in this Lockbee Venture pouch. This stays in there. It keeps it a little bit safer. What's it like to write with? Don't honestly know. I don't care. I am not the user of very fine pens for writing. As you can see, my style of writing tends to lend itself to big fat lines. So I have pens with big fat nibs rather than little very, very fine 0.2mm nibs. But I have got an embarrassing number of fine liners. Let me just give you an indication. These are the ones I use most often. So I've got one of them. I've got, that's a brush, not a fine liner. I've got one of them. I've got one of them. I've got one of them. I've got fine liners, rollerballs, and God knows what else, because they're great generally for sketching and for putting down a very thin line when you're sketching houses or anything like that. But of course, all of them have to be thrown away. Now, I started moving over to a different type. I've forgotten the name right now. It'll come to me in a minute. Which was basically an aluminium body and cap, and you could replace the nib and the ink sac inside it, which is great, but it still involved a huge amount of plastic every time you wanted to change it. Basically, it was an aluminium sleeve around one of these pens. It's not ideal. I am very unenthusiastic about the idea of putting stuff in landfill. No need to worry with this. This will keep going for years unless I'm bloody clumsy and I break this barrel as well. These things are cheap, utterly reliable. They take carbon black ink for those of us who sketch, and it is light and easy to carry around with you all day long. And when you run out of ink, you just replace that little ink cartridge, or you can get a, he says, thinking, can you get a, I'm not sure. You may be able to get a cartridge converter to fit inside this as well. I'll need to check on that, I'm not sure. But either way, it is still a lot less waste and rubbish than you would have with a standard fine liner. And yet it's a 0.2 nib. That's a very fine line. It's ideal for sketching, especially farm equipment. I've discovered I really like it for sketching farm equipment. So that's all that. Just looking at some other things I've got to mention, because I've been playing around with Stamford notebooks, and I've got a sketch pad from Stamford which I did a little video of, and I'll link that video on the end of this actually, because I thought it was quite interesting. So as well as the joy of seeing two dogs playing silly monsters in my kitchen, you can also see a little video which includes me sitting at my desk and sketching. The reason being that my next book is based in Piacenza, where I went some years ago. I was at the time involved in a literary festival because I had a new book coming out that had just been translated, and I was invited to go out and help market the book. Gosh, that was such a hard job to do. It was wonderful. So I'm going to write about Piacenza because I really love the town, and I decided to get myself into the right frame of mind. I'd do some research, and part of my research involved finding all my old photos, and I found some pictures that just really appealed to me and were crying out to be painted, so I painted them. So that's what one of these is about. And so, right, that I think is my lot. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you want to help support the channel, don't forget to hit the like button, because it drives me further up the algorithms. More people see my videos. That makes everyone happy, especially me. And you like happy authors, don't you? But apart from that, if you have some time, please go and have a look at www.michaeljex.co.uk. It's an HTTPS website now, and I've just recently modified it. And I'm looking for anybody's comments about anything they find that doesn't work, or that looks a bit silly, or where there's a typo, or if they find a link that doesn't function. I'll be grateful if you'd have a look at it, because it'll make my life a bit easier rather than having to go through every page yet again. It's taken a month to get to this level. But apart from that, thanks a lot for watching, and here's a quick video about me painting just before you get some silly dogs appear. Lovely fun. Thanks for watching. Take care. Speak to you in a week.